Hidden hurts, there's no sneaking up, and third, some questions. So first, hidden hurts, we have two stories here where there's just a lot of suffering. There's a lot of hurt. The way that Mark couples these two stories together, these two encounters, I think it serves as kind of a microcosm of life and the different sufferings in which one can experience. You have a man named Jairus who has a daughter who's at the point of death. Right? So the suffering of this little girl, it's urgent, it's immediate, it's crying out. It's something that needs a suffering that needs to be attended to right away. Then you have the hemorrhaging woman, and there's a suffering here that's chronic. The text says that she's have had this now for 12 years, an ongoing suffering. These are obvious sufferings that we can easily pick up from the gospel here, but can you see the hidden sufferings? The hidden hurts that are here? You know, the text says that this hemorrhaging woman, that she suffered greatly at the hands of many doctors. She spent all she had, and she was not helped, but only grew worse. So you can hear like the fight in her. Like there's an exhaustion. There's a psychological suffering in this woman. She's bleeding, it says, so it's to know that back then that meant that she was unclean. She probably was no longer living at home with her family. She was isolated. She wasn't in communion. She was cut off. Shame she had around the inner thing that was happening, this inner thing going on. She had a hidden hurt. And I'll say this, and I don't think I have to say it because I think every one of us in this church knows this morning, but I know this as a priest of 7 years in my work as a priest, but I also know it just as from my own personal experience of life. And that is that it's the hidden hurts that are often the most serious, the most painful, that cause the lingering problems in life. And every single one of us has hidden hurts. It doesn't matter what household we grew up in. Even if it was like up here, none of us have been loved perfectly. The way Sister Miriam James talks about it, she says, all of us have had at times love withheld or love withdrawn in our lives. Or the way I think about it is that all of us have had things said to us or not said to us or done to us or not done to us that's left marks. And then we have hidden hearts. They're not on the surface of which everyone can see that that are out there, but they're there and they're crying out for attention. And oftentimes manifest themselves, and the hidden hurts manifest themselves in a whole set of ways, one of which is that oftentimes the hidden hurts are there from the things that we do that we don't know why we do. Why do I do this? Why do I look here? Or why do I act this way? Oftentimes it's the hidden hurts. And what it is doing those things or saying those things, or how they manifest is oftentimes it's jumping ultimately from one doctor to another doctor to another doctor, and us realizing that it's not getting better, but it only grows worse. We all have our hemorrhages. We all have our hemorrhages. Places that we know deep down keeps us from being fully alive. Like receiving the depth of love that we know that, like deep down, that we know we're capable and that God wants us to receive. And also being able to give love to the extent that I know that I long to give and that God wants me to give. And it's like, Lord, like this thing I hear is bleeding life out of me. Fix it. Fix it. Of which this woman wasn't quite able to say that, because oftentimes hidden hurts often have around them a lot of shame, a lot of embarrassment. They'd be feeling unclean, dirty. So this woman decides, I can't handle anyone else knowing the deep hurt or the past of what's really going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sneak up on him. I'm going to sneak up on Jesus. I'm going to crawl my way and I'm just going to touch the tassel. If I just touch the tassel, and then I'll sneak away without anybody else noticing that I even did it. There's just one problem for this woman. There's no sneaking up on Jesus. There's no sneaking up on Jesus. We see, you have to imagine the scene sneaking up. Like, you have to imagine the chaotic scene. Jesus is being taken by the hand by Jairus, who's got a daughter, who's got that one suffering that's there. His daughter's at the point of death. So he's dragging Jesus by one arm through the crowded streets, rushing him along. And it is a crowded streets. And the text says that the crowd is pushing up on Jesus. He's famous at this point. They've been hearing about him. And so not only are they pressing, there's a crowd because they want to see him and talk to him, but they probably all have their stuff. They all have their things that are crying out and suffering. And so they're pressing upon him. And so this woman, wishing to remain hidden, wishing that what's there to remain hidden, or hidden hurts, she does manage to get to Jesus and crawl right through the crowd. And she does touch his tassel. And the text says she was immediately healed. Immediately. And Jesus feels something. He felt it. He stops and he says, someone touched me. Who touched me? The disciples there, of course, are like, what do you mean someone touched you? Everybody's touching you. But Jesus is persistent. And he begins to look around and said, someone touched me. Who was it? And when he's looking around and his eyes fall upon the woman's eyes, the first word out of his mouth, which, by the way, at this point, she's on the ground trembling in fear, it says, because her worst nightmare has just come true. Because the things in which she wished to keep hidden are not going to be hidden anymore. And as his eyes fall upon her, the first word out of his mouth is extremely significant, and it's daughter. Daughter. It's like a dad of a little girl. Little girl has, something bad. She did something bad, or she's got some shame, or maybe she didn't even do something. She's just hurting, and she wants to go to see her dad, so she sneaks in her dad's office early in the morning or late at night to get some time with him. And the dad knows something's up. He sensed it in his daughter maybe over the last week or even the last couple hours. He knows something's off. And as the daughter comes in, at some point, the dad wants to make sure he says to her, daughter, just to reestablish the relationship, to like you're my daughter. I've got you. You're mine. There's a film, Good Will Hunting, that came out in 1998, won some Academy Awards, and Good Will Hunting. Will is played by Matt Damon, and he's this genius, prodigy kid, and he's always getting in trouble. And it comes out that he's got, Matt Damon here, Will, he's got a lot of hidden hurts. He grew up as an orphan. He was abandoned by his parents, and he was abused as an orphan. And you see throughout the film that he's bleeding out throughout the whole film. Literally, he's going from doctor to doctor to doctor till finally he lands upon Robin Williams, who plays Sean. And there's this key scene as the trust is beginning to be built between Robin Williams and Matt Damon. And Robin Williams turns to him and says, do you think you're alone? Will says, what? And he rephrases and says, do you have a soulmate? And he says, define soulmate. Because I've got Shakespeare, I've got Kant, I've got Nietzsche, And he says, no, they're all dead. He says, I'm talking about someone who touches your soul, someone who takes you places, and who opens things up for you. See, that's what love does. Takes you places, and it can touch spots. That's ultimately what happens to Will. He does experience some healing as through Sean. But can you see how Jesus is this woman's soulmate here? How he takes her places. He touches her soul. He opens things up for her. It's not someone he sees and it says, I just want you're someone to be fixed. He doesn't want I'm not someone to be fixed. That's not how Jesus looks at us, but rather he wants us to go and to allow him into those hidden hurts. There was someone after one of the earlier masses this morning who said, yeah, things are all right. Like the things that I have, Father Mark, like there's so many people that have so many other things, and like these little hidden hurts that I have, like Jesus doesn't have time for these. And what she says right there out loud, I think a lot of times we think that. And I stopped and I just told her, I said, Jesus will not be hurried. He will not be hurried. You see it in this account when they're pulling them through the streets, and this woman who just is like, I'll just sneak in there to get unnoticed and Jesus will not be hurried. Even for your small, you think, hidden hurts, as they tend to manifest themselves in other ways in our lives, he will not be hurried. Authentic love is the thing that heals hidden hurts. It's what stops the hemorrhages. It stops the bleeding of life out. So a couple questions maybe for us. A question for us to ask the Lord in prayer and to sit with, even at the rest of this liturgy or throughout this week in prayer, is just to ask, where do I hurt? I can really ask it. Where do I hurt? Maybe I can get at it by seeing and how it maybe how it might manifest in my life in different ways. What's the one area in my life that's crying out for attention? And most of us, I'm increasingly convinced that most of us just don't live at a deeper level of the heart. And we don't notice, so we don't give it time. But we've got to become aware of the hidden hurts. This question may ultimately be, am I ready to stop? Am I ready to stop going from doctor to doctor to doctor? Might I be able today to muster up enough courage to try to sneak to him? To sneak up on him. And if you do, what you'll find is that he's the one that's been sneaking up on you the whole time. Because he just wants to love in that spot. He wants to love you in your hidden hurt and touch your soul and to bring you places and to open things up for you. To call you daughter, to call you son in that spot. So take the step toward love, reach out to him, touch him, and have the hemorrhaging stop.